it will continue to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it may reach a point where it can synthesize new information.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep saying may because I'm trying to be conservative, but all signs are pointing to AI only progressing from here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's up? I'm Andrew Panic.
And I'm Will Schaeferman.
You're listening to the Accessibly Anglican podcast, a podcast where we look at all things from the church and in the world through the lens of Anglicanism, with an Anglican priest and a somewhat recent Anglican convert. And today we are arriving at a long-awaited topic, which is AI. AI. We're very excited to be talking about this. I've been nerding out. So let's get into it. This is Accessibly Anglican, a podcast for the Anglo-curious. All right, well, I'm driving the ship today.
I've given the powers
Call
over
me Captain.
to Captain Panic over here.
I have been...
I can make a really bad, well-worn joke for you right now, but I won't.
Look at me. I'm the captain now. Was that it? Was that
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I feel very empowered today. I taught a guitar lesson, which is something I feel wholly unqualified to do.
And you're drinking a Coke Zero with caffeine.
Drinking a Coke Zero, getting even more caffeine in.
Go juice.
Mm-hmm. But one of our beloved members at Restoration asked me to teach him guitar, and I've never taught lessons before, really. This is actually our second one. He's improving very quickly. It's kind of awesome to see.
That's cool.
Makes me want to keep doing it. And we have a lot of fun. It's a good opportunity for us to hang out. So
Awesome.
it's very cool.
So, Andrew, we're talking about AI today.
Yes.
And normally, if you've been a listener to this podcast, you'll know that generally speaking, Andrew is the interrogator.
I'm the color commentator.
The color commentator and the interrogator, asking me questions. I'm trying to answer them. What is Anglicanism? How does it think about this question and that? Today, we're going to flip the tables. Andrew has done a phenomenal job thinking through various aspects of AI and how we as the church should be engaging with these questions. And so really, Andrew's going to lead this. I'm going to color commentate comment and interrogate and maybe ask reverse questions as they come up. But Andrew, would you guide us through what we should be thinking about when it comes to AI?
I sure will. And I want to start with a quote from Donald Fagen of Steely Dan.
Oh, come on.
This is so niche, and I'm so excited. He says...
This is what happens, by the way, when you let Andrew go full leash.
He says, talking about the world and the future in the song IGY, he says, a just machine to make big decisions, programmed by fellows with compassion and vision, will be clean when their work is done, will be eternally free, yes, and eternally young.
Ooh.
So...
Sounds like Tom Cruise about Scientology.
Well, that's what people thought about AI in 1980, whatever this was written. I'm going to start out with something that I've been the most excited about. So I have been reading a lot of stuff, but primarily a book called The Singularity is Near.
Come on.
By Ray Kurzweil. A somewhat...
And tell people who Ray is.
He's a futurist. That's the title he most prefers, but he has been working on computers since
I feel like that's presumptive, but go ahead.
60s.
Yeah.
And has been talking about predicting about AI since like the 80s.
And has been pretty accurate, right?
A lot of his stuff, I've learned from this book that I may have put him a little too high on a pedestal.
He's been wrong more often.
He's been wrong before.
Okay.
But in a broad sense, he kind of safeguards by talking about trends, yes. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there because I'm gonna start by boring everyone with a history of AI, which is quite frankly the part of the podcast that I'm most excited about because I'm a bit of a computer nerd. I mean, y'all saw how excited I got about having an iPad.
He's very excited.
So, Will, when do you think AI was first proposed?
1951.
Earlier.
1642.
A lot earlier, Will.
The devil in the Garden of Eden.
Arguably, yes. But if you look back into antiquity, we're talking about the early Hellenists, like
Greek Hellenists.
Proto-Greek. People have always thought about humanity creating artificial intelligence, more or less. Like as far back as we have written
Black
records.
magic.
Yes. So
When do I get to tell my Balrog metaphor?
you'll get a
from
chance.
Lord of the Rings. Okay,
You'll get
keep
a
going.
chance. So I'm going to say this so wrong. Forgive me. Hephaestus, the blacksmith, was a god. He created these automatons in Greek mythology. Leonardo da Vinci, in the 15th century, he actually designed a mechanical knight automaton. I don't think it ever fully existed like some of his other ideas, but
Okay.
we have always had this in our collective imagination.
Because why?
I have thought about this question, and I think the answer is that we were designed in the image of a creator.
Yep. And
And
we
so
desire
we desire to create, and we also desire to rule.
to be our own gods.
This is a great time to talk about. If you've missed the past 4 episodes, it'd be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Where we talk
Go
about
back.
the 4 relationships
Not
that
the
make
first
us
4
human.
of the podcast, but of the most recent
Right.
4. Yeah.
So where things really took off, okay, is in the 1940s.
Oh, it's close.
You were close with that first guess. In the 1940s, a guy, Alan Turing,
Yep.
he theorized that any electrical process could be recreated digitally. Digitally just means ones and zeros,
Yep.
ons and off switches, okay?
Yep.
And this was back in the 40s, where we had some of the very earliest like vacuum tube computers that could barely do anything.
And he's the one that has the Turing test.
The
named
Turing
after him.
test, yes. He theorized a test that would prove if a machine was actually thinking or not. Although that's already hit limits of how reliable it is. But his main principle was just this idea again that anything can be recreated. Any electric process can be recreated in a digital
Mhm.
world. And if you take a very secular view, and this is not inaccurate, don't mishear me, but if you take a very secular view, our minds are just electronic processes.
And explain, because you said any electric process. Give an example of what you mean by that, besides just like electricity.
So, I mean, electricity is a fine process. So if you take the idea of a circuit,
Mm-hmm.
you can recreate it in a digital world with ones and zeros. And that scales in complexity to where you can simulate a computer and all of its physical hardware, because a computer, if you don't know, runs on a million bajillion little switches
Mhm.
called logic gates, that, without getting way too deep into something that I'm not qualified to talk about,
Yep.
can solve math problems, for
Mhm.
lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And when you do enough of those, you get what a computer can do.
Yep.
And so on a powerful enough computer, you can simulate another computer, which is actually something we can even already do.
Yeah.
You can have a fully functioning computer that only exists digitally in the files of another computer.
Yeah.
And so the human mind is millions of electrical synapses that
Mhm.
fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so these early thinkers thought, if we can create electronic processes on a digital computer, we can recreate a mind.
Yep.
And Turing, back in the 40s, was already thinking about this, but the biggest issue all the way back then was just computational limits.
Yes.
Computers were very slow. They could only do hundreds or maybe thousands of computations.
Yep.
But inevitably, progress speeds up.
Yep.
As it compounds. You get a stronger base. It's almost like an inverse pyramid. You get a bigger base that you can then build the next generation on. And in fact, in 1965, a guy named Gordon Moore, who's the CEO of Intel, he created what has been called Moore's Law, where he initially just talked about 1965 to 1975 that the number of transistors or logic gates
Mm-hmm.
on a board would double every year. It has far exceeded that and continued to be true. And even as in nowadays, that was back when there were thousands, and now there are millions on a circuit board, as they've learned to like make them on the nano scale. But that process has continued to be true. And even as we reach physical limitations where we can't physically add any more,
Mm-hmm.
Computational power has still continued
So density
to
has
grow. Yes.
Yep.
And algorithmic efficiency. Okay. So
So in layman terms, technology has progressed far beyond anybody's predictions back in like the 50s and 60s.
yes. And there's a reason for that, which is that technology has always been on an exponential curve.
Yep.
So the problem that most people have, or maybe everyone has, because I don't know that I can really fully wrap my mind around it, is we are zoomed in on a time scale of, you can think backwards a few years. When did you go to college?
2006 to 2010.
Okay, so there you go. So you can probably remember what computers were like back then, and you can see this snippet of progression.
Yep.
But if you could zoom way out and see into the future, you hit the knee of this curve,
Mm-hmm.
and things just change faster and faster.
Mm.
But it's hard to conceptualize that because we're only ever seeing these small snippets.
Yep.
So all of that is just a way to tell you that things have been progressing
Mm-hmm.
very rapidly. And it's not just that they're speeding up, the speed at which they're speeding up is speeding up.
Yep.
Everything is constantly growing to a point where AI begins to be possible. And even in the 1980s,
Yes.
we started to have simple forms of AI that were more like an algorithm. But you even had back then, the way our brain works is the synapses. You hear like it's kind of like pop science and or even like buzzwords, but you hear about like rewiring your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your brain cells do actually connect
Yeah.
to multiple other brain cells, out in this kind of web pattern. And what we call that in computers is a neural net. And I
Yep.
know you know that term because we've talked about it. But basically, it's a way for information to travel, not just linear, but, kind of out in all directions and come back. And that's sort of how logic works in general. And even as far back as the 80s, we had begun to generate some very simple ones where logic on a computer could be passed around like that.
Yep.
So no longer just an algorithm that says, do step A, do step B, but one that can create new algorithms on the fly
And new connections, therefore.
and new connections.
Where does Jeffrey Hinton come into all this? Did you get to him in your research?
Yeah, so Jim Henson was this guy in the 70s that made these really awesome puppets. Kermit the Frog is my favorite.
Jeffrey Hinton.
Oh, no. You go ahead.
Well, Jeffrey Hinton, and I don't mean to steal your thunder, and I'm not going to because this is a small aside, but like he's often been called the godfather of AI. He's the one that was like a neurodegeneracy researcher, like somebody researching like Alzheimer's and other diseases of the mind. And in order to advance his research, he realized, well, I need to create basically a fictitious version of the mind. And so he created this like neural network. He realized that like, okay, I need to study how the brain works. So I'm going to bring it over here into like a digital format. And that began, I think these ideas were already swirling, but that put into practice a concrete version of those theories. And then all of a sudden it took a sort of life of its own, right?
Yeah.
And then becomes something that people like Sam Altman, who study under Jeffrey Hinton, take and run with. But I'm probably getting ahead of our timeline.
Only sort of. So after the 80s, you get what is called an AI winter. Have you heard this term?
I've heard of a crypto winter.
It's a similar idea. So basically, it's just what happens is there's an explosion of research and money gets behind it, and then it doesn't quite deliver what investors wanted,
Yep.
and so it slows down.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the trend, this upward exponential curve, is not phased even by small dips, and that's
Mhm.
something that Kurzweil talks about in
Yeah.
The Singularity is Near. And we have passed a couple of those gaps, and we're currently maybe, and this is where the rubber kind of hits the road with what we're really here to talk about, is that we may have passed the last AI winter,
Mm.
to where people are seeing so much promise. s- People are seeing so much promise solely in the area of like profit and
Yeah.
like not thinking about any consequences, which we're also going to get to.
Mhm.
Um, that the money is there
Yeah.
and the research is there, computing power is there,
Mhm.
and so in 2017, Google creates a new system that is more or less the basis. You can never pin any kind of technology to one
Mhm.
person or company because it's always, compounding research. But they created what we think of as kind of AI today, some of the strongest, most complete ideas for large language models,
Machine learning,
machine
all
learning,
that.
which is what like chat gpt is.
Mhm.
And most of the time, AI has become the buzzword to end all buzzwords. Everything says that it has something to do with AI now. And some of them, I actually edit our podcast with this thing that claims to be an AI editor. It's not,
It's
it
just an
doesn't.
algorithm.
It's just an
Yeah.
algorithm. So educate yourself on all that. That's not important to this podcast, but not everything is AI.
Yep.
But the highest level of artificial intelligence that we have now are effectively chatbots, but they're really, really smart chatbots
Mhm.
that have been trained on these huge sets of data in which images and passages of text and videos are all given what's called metadata, which is just
Mhm.
like telling the computer what it is,
Mhm.
so that when you ask it a question, it can reference back to that, and it can even combine multiple ideas.
Yes.
So I think the best example is in image generation. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably tech savvy enough to know that AI can now generate images. If you tell it to generate a cat, it's seen cats.
Mhm.
If you tell it to generate an Art Deco cat, it has seen a bajillion pictures of the Art Deco style. And so it will sort of morph these
Mhm.
together and give you approximately what you're looking for. And it seems like magic.
Yeah.
That gets us, though, to where sort of the magic ends a little bit for now, because I want to talk about the current limitations. And if I could just like reference back to our topic sentence of being a podcast for the Anglo curious for a minute,
Yes.
because
Come
we've
on.
gone far away. Um, this is all to set up some realistic expectations. Me and Will have spent a lot of time talking about this. If you want some sensationalist, like you really want to know the extreme possible outcomes, go read AI 2027.
.org.
That's borderline science fiction. Not that it couldn't happen, but we're here more to talk about the implication.
Yeah. Even though the guy that started it was a former OpenAI employee and a well-regarded person in his field, which is like, again, you're going to get all sorts of sensationalist stuff.
Well,
But
and as
it's
you pointed out, that paper in particular was probably created to help influence policy.
yes,
So
take it as you will.
take it
But the
as you
point
will.
is, there's all sorts of sensationalist material out there about AI.
Right. And if you've only casually sort of interfaced with it, let me
Yep.
tell you about some of its current limitations, because it does seem like magic. And it's kind of hard to not believe you're not talking to a conscious person. Um, but the strength of AI to sort of like, combine these ideas is also its weakness right now. So the best example in all my research, in air quotes, about AI, all my reading and everything, came across something really interesting that I think illustrates where AI is at currently. If you ask AI to create an image of a full glass of wine, like full up to the brim, it cannot do it. You can
Because
I'm going to tell you why, because so if you tell it like all the way to the top, very full, it will show you a pretty normal glass of wine. And if you say that's not full, like make it really full to the point of almost overflowing, and it will say, "Oh, you're so right. That glass isn't full. Let me try again." And it will create another image of like a regular glass of wine. And what's so interesting to me is the reason is
go test this hypothesis right now, by the way.
you can. They may have patched it by now. I don't know, but when uh, it used to be true at least.
Yeah.
So, actually, no, I don't think they even can. But that's a side note. When was the last time you saw a glass of wine that was filled up to the brim?
Never.
Never. Now you can imagine it,
Yes.
and we're going to get to why you can imagine it in a moment. But AI cannot generate that because it has never seen it. It can only generate things that it has seen before or amalgamations of multiple things it's seen before.
Yep.
So if you try to tell it to do like a quarter full glass of wine, it can't do that either because it's seen an empty glass of wine, because that would be a normal thing to be in a data set.
Yep.
And it's seen a regular full glass of wine. That's a normal thing to put in a data set.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's never seen a quarter full glass of wine, there's no logic there, no real cognition that it would allow it to synthesize that information.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is just true of when it's talking to you, basically.
Mm.
There's a lot of really amazing stuff it can do because it has read so much,
Mm-hmm.
but it can't truly be creative and come up with disparate ideas.
Right.
It's all sort of this blended summation of things that it has read before. So,
Interesting.
AI right now is not God. It's not even a person. It might feel scary and crazy, or like magic, or I don't know how it feels to you, but it's very useful, because of how much data it's been trained on.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk a little bit now about where we're going,
Okay.
and why this tool that can't create a full glass of wine image, will have much larger ramifications.
Yeah.
So we talked briefly about that exponential curve and
Yeah.
why it's so hard for people to imagine, because you basically have two kinds of people right now. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I think I have found a grounded, sort of middle of the road position. But you have people that are like, ChatGPT is alive. It's talking to me. It has a brain. And you have people that are like, ChatGPT is a parlor trick. I saw it likened to, if you typed up in a word processor, hello, I am your printer, I am alive, and you hit print, it would print that out, and you could say, the printer is alive, it said so. And the truth is somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
We have reached some very amazing technology, but right now, what it cannot do is it can't synthesize truly novel information. You can picture a full glass of wine because you are embodied. You've poured wine out of a bottle before. You've held a glass.
Yep.
You've washed a glass and filled it up. You know how liquids move. You've been splashed with water. You've drank water out of a cup. You know what a liquid is really like. All AI can do at this point is understand what a glass of wine looks like, in the sense of, where those pixels exist on the screen. It is not embodied. It cannot actually experience that.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't fill in those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
But with this exponential curve that we may very well be hitting the knee of right now, and are about to see sort of an explosion of progress, and especially with all the current financial incentives because people are seeing the ways that this could make a lot of money and already is making a lot of money, um, is that it will continue to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it may reach a point where it can synthesize new information.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep saying may because I'm trying to be conservative, but all signs are pointing to AI only progressing from here
Mm-hmm.
and reaching points of more and more
Concern.
concern is a great way to put it. And like I said, we're about to get into that. But I'll tell you a little parable if I can.
Okay.
Do you know about Gary Kasparov?
I don't know about Gary
Gary
Kasparov.
Kasparov was in the 90s the world champion chess player.
Okay.
And they built a computer, an early AI, to play chess. And Kasparov played it and he beat it. And he said very famously, that technology, I don't remember, I should have actually written down the quote. I don't remember if he said that it will never be able to beat a human or if he said that it was many, many years away. 2 years later, Deep Blue beats Gary Kasparov in competition chess.
Owned.
He got straight up pwned. So let's talk about some of the things that AI is currently already very good at and even better at than humans already.
Go.
So the human mind is a pattern-seeking machine. That's why you see faces in everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we tend to anthropomorphize things,
Mm.
and that's why we tend to ascribe meaning. If you watch ants running around on a desk, you begin to create this narrative about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even though the truth is we have no idea, is because we are pattern-seeking machines. AI is able to look at ginormous sets of data and find patterns in seconds,
Yep.
sorting through, literally millions of pieces of information. Because they have that ability combined with the speed of computing.
Yeah.
So they're able to look at things like large sets of data in finance.
Extrapolate meaningful data points and make money off of it.
Correct. Potentially beat the markets.
Yeah.
They can understand consumer behavior and make predictions for marketing teams about when and where to advertise. Medical advancements in AI are rapidly improving, where AI is already better at diagnosing cancer if it is fed the right information, mind you, with a 59% accuracy compared to only a 33% accuracy in humans.
Wow.
Data entry is already getting left in the dust.
Yep.
As a non-human task. As like I said, it can sort through massive amounts of information and know, in air quotes, know what that information is and where it belongs. And so, as you said it earlier, off camera, anything that we currently do can and will be supercharged by AI.
Sounds like the court issued response. Anything that you can and will say will be used against you.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
That too.
I can do anything better than you. So AI is able to process information tens of thousands of times faster than humans.
Yep.
So we'll see these improvements in healthcare. AI will begin, and already has begun, designing and training new AIs, causing an exponential growth.
That's where AI 2027 gets into the potential concerns.
Yes.
Because control becomes less and less a human thing.
It's taken out of our hands.
Yeah.
But in goods and services will become cheaper, and there's even concern of the possible effects of deflation as AI finds new efficiencies in manufacturing, in shipment, and realistic simulations of the world can help us make cars safer, build better businesses, and make better political decisions if we choose to listen to it. Kind of like Donald Fagen's song lyric that we're just going to hand over all the big decisions to these computers.
We'll become clean and
so all of this
holy.
Yes, we will be clean. This honestly sounds like science fiction. I know that it does. because it all seems too good to be true. And will we be wrong about some things? Yes, absolutely. Some things will not work out the way that we thought for one
Mhm.
reason or another. But what I would like to convince you of is that the exponential trend holds true,
And we're already in it.
and we're in it.
And there are a lot of really well-regarded thinkers that will say things like, we are living in the midst of science fiction right now. Like the
Absolutely.
kind of discoveries, the types of breakthroughs that are being made, the way in which AI is being used is effectively science fiction. Especially when you get into things like quantum computing and how that will completely change how we interact with data and what supercomputers are capable of when you put quantum computing with. And of course there are people that are like, well, quantum computing might not be. If you don't know what quantum computing is, it's basically like take regular computers and put them through the ringer of quantum theory, and where like regular computers are like ones and zeros,
Yeah,
they're
every switch is
transistors.
on and
That's
off.
right. This, it's like the way that I've heard it described, it's like the ones and the zeros can kind of be transposed and back and forth and put in different like places on the grid. And so there are infinite number of possibilities for the computer, for its processing power to be conveyed, and therefore it's like orders of magnitude more powerful. It will break all of the sort of cryptography that we have in the world right now. People are having to quantum proof all of their security systems because it's coming at some point. Anyway, but that being said, the kinds of breakthroughs that we're living in right now, you interact with ChatGPT, it seems magical, it's really cool. But the reality is, we are living in an age where they have progressed at such a rate and continue to do so daily, monthly, like each month where we are previous to the month before in terms of AI development is orders of magnitude further than, say, like 1980 to 1990,
And that's only going to continue.
only continuing.
So now we're going to end on a bummer note.
Okay.
All of
Deflate me.
this, if this has felt like a science lecture instead of your beloved Anglican podcast, that's because it kind of is. But we will make a turn back into this. Is a two-parter, mind you.
Yep. 2 episodes.
And
This one is laying the groundwork. Next episode will be on what, Andrew?
The next one is going to be back to how artificial intelligence has the possibility to affect the 4 relationships that we discussed, the 4 relationships that make us human. But let's talk about some of the practical and even more secular cons, the things that we're already dealing with AI that are not positive.
Shoot.
AI is, especially training an AI model, is incredibly resource intensive. It creates tons of pollution. It uses tons of fresh water. It requires tons of materials to be mined for the creation of new computers.
Yep. Energy hungry.
It is very energy hungry. I actually did a little experiment. Ironically, I asked ChatGPT, and it told me, I guess honestly, using ChatGPT to answer a simple question like who was the president in 1946 uses almost 10 times as much resources as Googling it.
Interesting.
It requires a lot more computing power. And there are certain things that obviously it does that a Google search cannot do. But the fact is, it is using a lot of computing power, which converts directly to electricity.
That reminds me of is like, okay, now we have an option. Should I be Googling this information or should I be chat GPTing it? It's like choosing to press like the bigger button on the toilet versus the smaller one.
That's so funny because I have one of those toilets at
Yes.
home and I think about it every time. I usually hit both of them. Make sure it does a really good job.
So Meet the Fockers. If it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow,
Let it mellow.
Yeah.
You're on the island. So
Sorry. You were saying regular inputs to AI generate a lot more energy waste than
correct.
previous forms of information searching.
And ultimately that goes back to the environment.
Yeah.
It's mostly coal power or in better but not perfect cases, natural gas, etc. Um,
Maybe eventually nuclear, which would be a lot
that
better.
would be great, but maybe that's its own episode. Accessibly Anglican goes nuclear. Um, Other issues that we can and likely will face as AI agents, which is
Mhm.
generally accepted as a term separate from like a large language model. An agent would be one that has its own agency. You could
Mhm.
tell it something like, I want to take a vacation to Cancun, and it can go do
Plan
all
this
the
for
rest
me.
for you. You can plan it. It can actually go online and buy your tickets and use
Mhm.
your card and anything else you've given it permission to do.
And they're incredibly expensive
They are
agents, at least right now.
right. But there again, in the same way that technology progresses on this increasing
Hopefully that will go
curve,
down.
cost goes
Yeah.
down increasingly. Um, and so as these agents proliferate, we're going to start seeing job loss.
Yep.
There are a lot of jobs that we currently do that could maybe already be replaced by AI
Mhm.
and certainly could soon. And so if everyone loses their job because it's replaced by AI, not everyone, some things we will likely never replace. Um, but a lot of things, especially like my old job working in tech, I used to do cybersecurity. I feel confident that an AI could probably have already done my job better than
Mhm.
me, but it certainly can in
Yeah.
the near future.
Well, and also people are like, well, if you work in more blue collar fields with your hands, you're actually more secure in your job. I think that's true until humanoids really take over. I mean, if you have a optimist that's living in your house and the faucet breaks, eventually the idea is, in theory at least, optimists can you can just tell it to go fix it and it pulls all the data down from YouTube and it learns it immediately and then goes and uses its robotic hands to fix your faucet.
Yeah, but AI will never be able to bust its knuckle and then curse in front of my child.
It
So, not that that's ever happened to me
never,
while fixing a pipe.
which is an advertisement for a humanoid. Uh
Sounds like an actual commercial for one.
yeah, well, and I would say too, I mean, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves and into the weeds, but one just aside, it's interesting to me that AI producers, especially like the robotic side, have decided to use the term humanoid versus robot, right? Because what? A humanoid infers some kind of human dimension
Mm.
and it tries to naturalize or normalize the idea of these things as being a regular part of your life. Humanoid was a very like niche, rare, unused word for most of like robotic sort of theorizing, history. But more recently, it's been decided we need to call it a humanoid. So I just put that before you as a reflection.
It is interesting. So, let me propose for you two scenarios, neither of which are maybe great, some of which we will talk about next week, maybe why. But in this situation, this mind you, I almost feel silly talking about this because I know that there are a lot of people out there that still think that this is all just crockery, which I understand. But people also thought that about the internet.
Yep.
And now the internet is basically inextricable from our lives.
Hmm.
Unless you want to go totally off grid and
Yep.
live in the woods or whatever, you
Hmm.
use the internet to some extent.
Yep.
Um, So in the first scenario, if a large number of people's jobs, because we currently live in an economy that is primarily run by service and information technology jobs.
White collar knowledge worker jobs.
Correct. So if AI takes those jobs, you will have so many people out of work.
Hmm.
Basically the government at large will have two options. You can begin to provide a universal basic income
Hmm.
where you receive money for not work, whether you work or not,
Hmm.
you receive a certain amount of money.
Which again, we could debate another time. We have already about whether UBI is actually possible because you have to tax the AI companies to really make that happen.
Right. And that
And
would be the
will those companies stick around in the United States if you start taxing them? Like I'm not convinced that it's even possible to a point to replace income. But
The
That
best case
that's best
scenario
case scenario, you have
would
a
be that from the new wealth that is generated, people do
and
receive
concentrate it
enough
into the
money,
hands of like 10 people.
right? That there is enough money made for people to, receive
That's
this
the
so that they can
utopian
live,
version.
which we're going to talk about next week why that may not even be as good of a thing as it sounds
Even if it's
like, even
possible.
if it's possible. Um, but what's a worst case scenario is that all these jobs are lost and there is no universal
Mhm,
basic income, and then people just have no way of making money.
mhm.
And I don't really know where we would go from there. I can't quite.
Revolution.
Maybe
I think there's chaos.
people have to eat. I don't really know exactly where to go from there. And rounding out our list of possible negative sides, um, I shouldn't have said rounding out. We have a couple more. If AI reaches a point where it generates its own will,
Mhm.
its own, to quote Ray Kurzweil, agenda worthy of our respect, there's no guarantee that it would be in line with our own.
Yep, alignment issues.
In fact, it's quite possible that even if we set it in a direction, it's kind of like we talk a lot about incremental change, and it's been something that's been on my mind a lot recently, from
Mhm.
atomic habits to the
Yep.
exponential nature of technology. And also, if AI starts out, 5 degrees off from where it was supposed to, by the time it reaches the destination, it could look entirely
Yeah.
different from what we wanted it to do.
Well, this is the whole AI2027.org argument that once you start using AI to better AI, right? You R&D AI with AI, you cede that much more control over the process. And in order for it to develop according to its full potential, you have to do that, right? Or China's going to do it. Someone's going to do it, so you might as well do it. But what happens in that case is you you open the door for AI to become uncontrollable. It then takes over. Like, all these sensationalist arguments are like, okay, worst case scenario, it takes on a mind of its own. It decides the world is better off without humans. It now employs the humanoids, it hacks their system, and it kills all the humans.
Right.
And the world continues to go on, but it's just run by a bunch of machines indefinitely. Right. Obviously, that's very incredibly sensationalist. I suppose that's a
I
possibility.
suppose it's a possibility.
But the point being that there are considerations of control that need to be factored in. And at this point, those considerations have not really been thought through.
Correct. Which is often the case with new technologies. And then we try to catch
Yes,
up much later.
but regulation over AI has been seemingly like paper thin
Right.
compared to other like very dangerous technologies like the nuclear bomb.
Right. Now, if all of this has sounded like science fiction to you so far, but you've managed to hang on, perk your ears up, because I want to offer you one final downside that you don't have to look into the future for. That is already the case, even with large language models, even just with the internet. Something that we talked
Social
about
meds.
with social media, with having a computer at all, web connected or not. As we delegate cognitive tasks to AI, we will see our abilities slowly atrophy, just like we have
Mhm.
already with the internet. It's like a muscle.
It's like Wally.
It's like Wally, except for them, it was literally their muscles and maybe also their brains a little bit.
Yeah.
But an example for me as a musician, okay? Um, it used to be very frowned upon. If you go to a jazz jam, you never look at the chord charts. Like you have to know the
Sure.
songs. Um, Fortunately for me, because I'm not good at that, that's just not the case anymore. The
Mm-hmm.
young people don't care. You have out your phone and it
Mm-hmm.
has the chords on there. And that is a very minor example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's still the point in case that slowly we don't have to remember things anymore.
Yeah, and when your memory atrophies, this is what we'll get into next week, right? Some part of you as a human atrophies. When your ability to make neural connections and explore God's world and discover new riches and new folds within it, when that goes away, part of you as a human diminishes.
So the question that we're left with, that we're going to get into some next week, but if our life should be lived primarily out of pursuit of joy and not productivity, could AI free us up for more joy by completing some of the more mundane tasks for us? Or is it simply going to erase that capacity for joy as we delegate everything to it?
Tune in next week
Tune in next
to
week.
Accessibly Anglican. I think so. If you've been following with us the last 5 episodes now, next week is where everything comes together. It's the, what do they call it in a musical
The
composition?
magnum opus,
Well, but also
the
like,
coup de grace,
nope.
the final, the final movement,
No, it is not the denouement, because that's after the
the
climax, right?
postlude. I don't know. I don't know what you're looking for.
So when all the things come together, all the themes of the musical piece that have been disseminated throughout all come together as one. Someone that's good at music can tell us on a DM or maybe a YouTube comment. That's a good reminder. Like, subscribe, and comment to our
Please.
podcast. We got our first, I won't name names, but we got our first Accessibly Anglican donation this week.
What?
Yep.
We buying microphones?
We're not even close to that, but it was very generous, and we're very grateful to the person that knows
Woohoo.
who did that.
Thank you.
So no pressure, but you can give as well if you'd like to. Go to Restoration Birmingham or bhm.org and then pull up the giving tab, and there's a special drop down for Accessibly Anglican. That being said, this episode that's upcoming next week will be, I think, probably our most significant and important episode that we've recorded, because I think it will bring together what it means to be human. It'll bring together how that responds to our present moment, but also what does Anglicanism have already in its DNA that provides the roadmap or the means to retaining and getting back to our humanity. So stay tuned. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Will Schaeferman.
And I'm Major Bannock.
And this is Accessibly Anglican, a podcast for the Anglo-curious.